So I'm going to start reading at line 348. Impenetrable, a mystery recondite, is the vast plan of which we are a part. Its harmonies are discords to our view, because we know not the great theme they serve. Inscrutable work the cosmic agencies. Only the fringe of a wide surge we see. Our instruments have not that greater light. Our will tunes not with the eternal will. Our heart's sight is too blind and passionate. Important to share in nature's mystic tact, inapt to feel the pulse and core of things. Our reason cannot sound life's mighty sea, and only counts its waves and scans its foam. It knows not whence these motions touch and pass. It sees not whither sweeps the hurrying flood. Only it strives to canalize its powers and hopes to turn its course to human ends. But all its means come from the inconscient store. Unseen, here act dim, huge world energies, and only trickles and currents are our share. Our mind lives far off from the authentic light, catching at little fragments of the truth in a small corner of infinity. Our lives are inlets of an ocean's force. Our conscious movements have sealed origins, but with those shadowy seats no converse hold, no understanding binds our comrade parts. Our acts emerge from a crypt our minds ignore. Our deepest depths are ignorant of themselves. Even our body is a mystery shop. As our earth's roots lurk screened below our earth, so lie unseen our roots of mind and life. Our springs are kept close hid beneath, within. Our souls are moved by powers behind the wall. In the subterranean reaches of the spirit, a puissance acts and recks not what it means. Using unthinking monitors and scribes, it is the cause of what we think and feel. The troglodytes of the subconscious mind, ill-trained, slow, stammering interpreters, only of their small tasks routine aware, and busy with the record in ourselves, concealed in the subliminal secrecies, mid an obscure, occult machinery, capture the mystic Morse whose measured lilt transmits the messages of the cosmic force. A whisper falls into life's inner ear and echoes from the dim subconscient caves. Speech leaps, thought quivers, the heart vibrates, the will answers, and tissue and nerve obey the call. Our lives translate these subtle intimacies. All is the commerce of a secret power. Martin, you will start.
Impenetrable, the mystery recondite is the vast plan of which we are a part. Its harmonies are discords to our view, because we know not the great theme they serve.
So, a mystery, a deeply hidden mystery, something that's recondite, it's very secret. So this secret is impenetrable. We can't penetrate into it, into this vast plan, this vast universal plan which we are a part of. Actually, it's perfectly harmonious, but its harmonies seem like discords to our view. We are always noticing that things are not as they ought to be. There are clashes and confusions and difficulties. These discords. It's because we don't understand what is going on. We know not the great theme that all these apparent discords, which are actually harmonies, they're serving a theme. Like a theme in music, in a great symphony. Then if you listen to very complex symphonic music, there will be themes and there'll be notes that sound like discords and clashes. But only if you listen carefully for some more time, you will see that they are actually parts of complex harmonies. So that's what's happening in our world. And they seem like discords because we don't know what is the intention which they are serving. Sudarshan.
Inscrutable word, the cosmic agency. Only the spring of a wide service we see. Our instruments have not the greater light. Our will tunes not with the eternal will. Our heart sight is too blind and passionate.
So something that's inscrutable. It's difficult to understand. Something that's scrutable, you can read it. If something's inscrutable, you can't read it. So the cosmic agencies, all the powers of the universe, are working in ways which are difficult for us to understand, which we can't understand, because we only see a part. There's a huge, wide surge, great waves of force, but we only just see the foam at the edge, only the fringe of a wide surge we see. And we only see that fringe because our instruments of perception, our instruments of hearing, and sight and smell, our instruments of understanding, they don't have the greater light they would need to be able to read what's going on really. Our will, we have our human mental will, but it doesn't know what's going on. The mind doesn't know, the instruments don't know. So our will, our human will, is not in harmony with the eternal will. It tunes not, it's not in harmony. And that's partly because the sight of our heart, the way that our heart looks at things, is too blind and passionate. It's full of impulses and wishes and desires. It can't understand really. It's blinded by all that self-will. Bhavana?
Important to share in nature's mystic tact, inner to feel the pulse and core of things. Our reason cannot sound life's mighty sea, and only counts its waves and scans its form. It knows not when these motions touch and part. It sees not whither sweeps the hurrying flood. Only it strives to canalize its powers and hopes to turn its course to human end. But all its means come from the inconscient store.
Impotent, powerless to share in the mystic tact of nature. Nature has a secret, perfect way of doing things. Tact, just doing things just right, in harmony. But our reason can't share, can't appreciate that, the accuracy of that tact. It's inapt, it's unfit, unable to feel the way, the pulse of things, the energies, the way they're flowing, and the core, the heart from which they're flowing. Our reason can't deal with all that. It's not able to sound life's mighty sea. We've had this word several times before. To sound meaning to find out how deep something is. It's the way that sailors used to find out how deep the water was beneath their boats. They would tie a weight on a rope and send it down and see when it touched the bottom. It's a sounding. Nowadays they do it with electronic means. So our reason can't find out where the bottom is, where the base is. It only can count the waves on the surface. And it can look at the foam, all those bubbles on the top. It doesn't know what's beneath, what is lying beneath, what is there on the bottom. It doesn't see where all these movements are coming from, and it doesn't see to where that surge, that flowing current is going. What our reason would like to do would be able to channel the powers, those cosmic powers that are there in that cosmic ocean. It would like to be able to use them for our human purposes. It would like to turn the course of that enormous power of the ocean to our human purposes, our human ends. But it can't do that because all its instruments, all its tools, all its ways of doing things, all of them belong to the inconscient. They don't have the greater light.
He's talking about only the little life. Little life itself is having all these things.
I think the whole universe is having these things. Philomena, would you read?
And see here at dim, huge world emerges, and only tricks and currents of our share. Our mind lives far off from the other
Authentic
light, catching at little fragments of the truth in a small corner of infinity. Our lives are inlets of an ocean's force.
Yes, so this is difficult, this lives and lives. No? We have to see if it is a verb, then it's lives, and if it's a noun, then it's lives. So we just have to be able to see the structure of the sentence, no? And it's not always easy. But basically what he's saying is that there are these huge world energies, immensely powerful forces, universal forces, that are acting here in our world. But they are dim, they are dark, they don't have the greater light. And we only get just tiny little trickles and currents from those immensely powerful energies. Only trickles and currents, tiny little flows. Our mind lives far off, very far away from the authentic light, the real truth light. And while it tries to be aware, tries to be conscious, it's just catching little fragments of the truth. And where are we? We're just in this tiny little corner of infinity. So our lives, some energy is here, allowing us to live. But our lives are just inlets of an ocean's force. So there's that huge ocean surge, but we are just getting little streams of energy from it. An inlet, it's where the ocean comes up against the land, the force of those huge waves is broken, and just little inlets. If you are a sailor and you use a sailing boat, you will be looking for inlets, places where you can sail your boat into the shelter of the land, away from the big forces, the storms that come. There'll be places you can sail in, has to be deep enough, no? And you're protected from the full force of the ocean. So it's like that. We are getting little inlets of force, universal force. Robert.
Our conscious movements have sealed origins, but with those shadowy seats, no converse hold. No understanding binds our comrade parts. Our acts emerge from a quilt our minds ignore. Our deepest depths are ignorant of themselves. Even our body is a mystery shop. As our earth's roots lurk, screen below our earth, so lie unseen our roots of mind and life.
Yes. So we do things and we are conscious of what we are doing, some of the time, at least half conscious. But what we are not aware of are those sealed origins, those secret reasons why we are doing these things, where these movements come from. And our consciousness, it's not in communication with those secret seats, the shadowy origins of our movements. And there's no understanding connecting all the different parts of ourselves. We have so many parts, but we are not in good communication, or the parts are not in good communication with each other. Our actions, the things that we do, they just pop up from a deep underground place that our minds don't know anything about. Just like that, we find ourselves saying or doing or thinking or feeling things without being aware really of why. Here he uses this word ignore. In ordinary English, when we ignore somebody, we just pay no attention to him. But Sri Aurobindo in the poem often uses the word in this original French meaning of being ignorant, of not knowing. So it's like that. Our acts are coming up from a deep, dark place that our minds don't know anything about. Our deepest depths, even the depths are ignorant of themselves. They don't know either. And even our body, you would think our body is what we know most about, but it's also full of mysteries. And we feel ourselves sometimes feeling fine and other times feeling just awful, and we have no idea why. He says our earth's roots are the roots of our matter, our substance. It has deep roots. No? They are below our earth. They're down below. We don't know anything about the roots. No? And in a similar way, we don't know about the roots of our mind and our life. Of course, Sri Aurobindo, particularly in this canto, he's telling us about these things. But mostly we don't know about them. We are not aware. Our springs, the springs which make us work, like a clockwork toy, they are hidden, kept close hidden, beneath, in the subconscious, within. Our souls are moved by powers behind the wall. It's not just a veil, it's a wall. Our souls are being moved and influenced. There's this wall, we have no idea what's happening on the other side. Joel.
Our springs are kept closed beneath, within. Our souls are moved by powers behind the wall. In the subterranean reaches of the spirit, a puissance acts and recks not what it means. Using unthinking monitors and scribes, it is the cause of what we think and feel.
Yes. So this is telling us a bit more about these powers behind the wall that are moving our souls. Subterranean means under the earth, under the ground. In the subterranean reaches, areas, parts of the spirit, there's a power, a puissance, a power is acting. But it doesn't care about the significance of what it is doing. It recks not, it doesn't care what it means. That puissance is using unthinking monitors and scribes. A monitor is somebody who's checking, keeping track of what's happening. And a scribe notes things down. But this checking and this noting down, it's being done in an unconscious way, without thinking. But that power, which uses those unthinking monitors and scribes, that is the cause of what we think and feel. Alice.
The troglodytes of the unconscious mind, ill-trained, slow, stammering interpreters, only of their small tasks, routine, aware, and busy with the record in their cells, concealed in the subliminal secrecies, mid and obscure occult machinery, capture the mystic Morse, whose measure lilt transmits the messages of the cosmic force.
Troglodytes. Troglodytes are beings who live underground or in caves. So there are these beings and powers of the subconscious mind. They are interpreters, but they haven't been properly trained, and they are slow at their work because they haven't been properly trained. And when they interpret, they stammer, they don't speak clearly. And they are only concentrated on the routine of their own small task. They're not seeing any bigger picture. They are busy with what they're focused on is the record in our cells, in the cells of our body, of whatever happens. They are concealed, they're hidden in these secrecies, these secret areas below the threshold of consciousness, subliminal, below the threshold of consciousness. And there they are at work in the midst of an obscure, hidden machinery. They use that machinery to capture the mystic Morse. Do you know this word? Morse code. That's why it has a capital M after Mr. Morse, who invented it. And that code, I don't know whether it is still used these days. It used to be in use in sending messages over distances. And it's just a collection of short and long signals which make patterns which correspond to letters and which can be built up into words. So it's a kind of code. And when it used to be transmitted by sound, dot, dot, da, 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 dot, dot, da. So that's like a kind of music when you listen to it. Lilt, he says, it's like a song, a mystic song. So this is secret messages that are being sent. And these are transmitting, this code is transmitting the messages of the cosmic force, of the universal force. And all that's going on apparently within the body. Kamala. Lilt. It's like a song or a little music. The
tap dancing.
Yeah. Yes.
A whisper falls into the life's inner air and echoes from the down subconscious ears. Speech leaps, thought quivers, the heart vibrates the world.
The will.
Will, answer and tissue and nerves obey the call. Our lives translate these subtle intimacies. All is the commerce of a secret power.
So this is a kind of communication that's going on. The troglodytes are transmitting these messages, and other troglodytes are receiving them, and they are receiving the messages of the cosmic force. So when it gets received, it's like a whisper, something whispering into the inner ear of our life force. Not the surface ear, the inner ear. And that whisper echoes through he says, dun, colorless, the dark, colorless caves of the subconscious. The subconscious is just full of dark caves. So that when these echoes sound there, then the being responds. Suddenly we say something. Speech leaps. Thought quivers. We get an idea. The heart vibrates. The will answers. There's a response from the will. And the body obeys the orders. The tissue and the nerve obey the call. So our lives, the actions of our lives, the behavior of our bodies and our brains is just translating these subtle intimacies, these communication that are going on between these troglodytes. All that exchange, that commerce, it's being done by a secret power.
Is this only connected with the trees in big forests? If they find some alarming thing, they send signals to the faraway plants, trees.
Yes, nowadays they find that it's like that even the plants are communicating with each other. Yeah. And all these are the communications, the movements, the powers of the little life. In the next canto we will read about the greater life. That's another whole level. But this little life influences us so much. We think that we are conscious, reasonable, thoughtful beings, but we are so much influenced by all these little movements that are going on in the lower reaches of our consciousness without us being aware of them at all. So we can read a little bit further. Would you like to read?
Thinking puppet is the mind of life. Its choice is the work of elemental strength that know not their own birth and thought, and glimpse not the immense intent they serve. in this neither life of man, bread, food, and dirt, yet filled with poignant, small, ignoble things. The conscious goal is pushed 100 ways, and feels the push, but not the hands that drive. For none can see the masked ironic truth, to whom our figure selves are marionettes. Our deeds unwitting movements in their grasp. Our passionate strife and entertainment sing.
We should learn this off by heart. A thinking puppet is the mind of life. It's not the higher mind of reason and insight. It's the mind of the life being. And it's like a puppet, like a marionette that's being worked by puppeteers. So what this puppet does, its choice, is the work of powers, of elemental strengths that don't know, that are themselves ignorant. They don't know where they've been born from, and they don't know why they are there, what is the cause and purpose. These strengths do not know. They are manipulating us, but they don't know what they are doing and why they're doing it. In this nether life, this little lower life of man, this lower life which is colorless, drab-hued, dull. And even though it is filled with poignant, small, ignoble things, things that are touching, piteous, and yet often also ugly and shameful. The conscious dull, each of us, or our life-mind part, gets pushed this way and that way. It feels the push, it responds to the push. It doesn't see the hands of those puppeteers that are driving it, because nobody can see them. They are these powers, these elemental strengths that are manipulating the puppets. They are masked. They wear masks. We can't see them, who they are really. And he says they are ironic. They are just playing about with us. A troupe is a word that's used for a group of entertainers. So, to that troupe, our figure selves, the little representations of our little life, are marionettes. Marionettes are puppets that are controlled by strings. There are other kinds of puppets that we put on our hands and we make them do things like this. But the marionettes, they have their limbs are controlled by strings, and the puppeteers stand behind the curtain and they manipulate like this, making them move very, very cleverly. It's a particular kind of puppet. So that's how we are moved by those elemental strengths. So we do things without knowing what we're doing, unwitting, unconscious movements in the grasp of those puppeteers. And our passionate strife, all this stuff that we care about so much and get so disturbed about, it is just an entertainment scene for them. Maybe if we would remember that more often, then we wouldn't get into so much passionate strife. Dhanalakshmi.
Ignorant themselves of their own fount of strength, they play their part in the enormous whole. Agents of darkness imitating light, spirits obscure and moving things obscure. Unwillingly they serve a mightier power. Ananke's engines organizing chants, channels purpose of a stupendous way, tools of the unknown who use us as their tools, invested with power in nature's nether state. Into the actions mortals think they know, they bring the incoherencies of fate, or make a doom of time's slipshod caprice, and toss the lives of men from hand to hand in an inconsequent and devious game.
Terrible. So these elemental strengths are themselves ignorant of where their strength comes from. The origin, the fount of their strength. They don't know where that is. They just play out their part in this enormous whole of the universe. They are really agents of darkness, but they're imitating light. They are spirits, but they're obscure spirits. And they move obscure things, the shadowy things. Without meaning to, unwillingly, they are serving a greater power, a mightier power. Ananke is the ancient Greek goddess of necessity. And it is said that the other Greek gods, whenever she appeared in their halls, they would turn their faces away. They didn't want her to see them. She's a dreadful goddess, a goddess of necessity, of what has to be. So they are tools, engines, machines belonging to Ananke. And she's necessity, but what she's doing is organizing chance so that it seems to be, or it turns into, necessity. He says that they are perverse channels. They're channels of a stupendous will, an extremely powerful will. But they are perverted, they're twisted and distorted. They are actually tools of the unknown. And they are using us as their tools. They're just using us for their purposes. They have really been given power, invested with power. They've been given power in this lower state of nature, in the lower life. And one of the things that they do is into the actions which we human beings think are our own actions, that we've decided on, thought about carefully, chosen to do. They bring the incoherences of fate, bringing in unpredictable, irrational movements which determine destiny. Or they make a doom of time's slipshod caprice. Maybe in time, certain things just happen like that without anybody thinking about it very much. Something that's slipshod, it's done carelessly. And caprice, it's also just done like that because somebody feels like it, without any real justification. Into that slipshod caprice, they turn that into doom, into disaster, into catastrophe for perhaps large numbers of people. They toss the lives of men from hand to hand, just juggling with them, playing with them in this inconsequent and devious game. For them it's a kind of a game and an entertainment. Inconsequent. It's actually meaningless, devious, tricky. So it's not a very nice place to stop, but I think we'll stop there for today. Impenetrable, a mystery recondite, is the vast plan of which we are a part. Its harmonies are discords to our view, because we know not the great theme they serve. Inscrutable work the cosmic agencies. Only the fringe of a wide surge we see. Our instruments have not that greater light. Our will tunes not with the eternal will. Our heart's sight is too blind and passionate, impotent to share in nature's mystic tact, inapt to feel the pulse and core of things. Our reason cannot sound life's mighty sea, and only counts its waves and scans its form. It knows not whence these motions touch and pass. It sees not whither sweeps the hurrying flood. Only it strives to canalize its powers and hopes to turn its course to human ends. But all its means come from the inconscient's store. Unseen here act dim, huge world energies, and only trickles and currents are our share. Our mind lives far off from the authentic light, catching at little fragments of the truth in a small corner of infinity. Our lives are inlets of an ocean's force. Our conscious movements have sealed origins, but with those shadowy seats no converse hold. No understanding binds our comrade paths. Our acts emerge from a crypt our minds ignore. Our deepest depths are ignorant of themselves. Even our body is a mystery shop. As our earth's roots lurk, screened below our earth, so lie unseen our roots of mind and life. Our springs are kept close hid beneath, within. Our souls are moved by powers behind the wall. In the subterranean reaches of the spirit, a puissance acts and recks not what it means. Using unthinking monitors and scribes, it is the cause of what we think and feel. The troglodytes of the subconscious mind, ill-trained, slow, stammering interpreters, only of their small tasks routine aware, and busy with the record in our cells, concealed in the subliminal secrecies mid an obscure, occult machinery, capture the mystic Morse whose measured lilt transmits the messages of the cosmic force. A whisper falls into life's inner ear and echoes from the dun subconscious caves. Speech leaps, thought quivers, the heart vibrates, the will answers, and tissue and nerve obey the call. Our lives translate these subtle intimacies. All is the commerce of a secret power. A thinking puppet is the mind of life. Its choice is the work of elemental strengths that know not their own birth and end and cause, and glimpse not the immense intent they serve. In this nether life of man, drab-hued and dull, yet filled with poignant, small, ignoble things, the conscious doll is pushed 100 ways, and feels the push, but not the hands that drive. For none can see the masked, ironic troupe, to whom our figure selves are marionettes, our deeds unwitting movements in their grasp, our passionate strife an entertainment's scene. Ignorant themselves of their own fount of strength, they play their part in the enormous whole. Agents of darkness imitating light, spirits obscure and moving things obscure, unwillingly they serve a mightier power. Ananke's engines organizing chance channels perverse of a stupendous will, tools of the unknown who use us as their tools, invested with power in nature's nether state. Into the actions mortals think their own, they bring the incoherences of fate, or make a doom of time's slipshod caprice, and toss the lives of men from hand to hand in an inconsequent and devious game.